love story, essentially, between two people.
So it was 3 days, right?
Yes, shooting 3 days. Yeah, all outdoors.
Very intense.
Very intense. Yeah. 10-hour days outside, as much light as you have, and a simple crew. Not, when I'm in New York and I shoot other films, I spend a lot of time with a much bigger crew and a lot more time. And with this, you only have daylight. We shoot very little things that are that have complicated lighting. So we just wanted to get the sense of a montage piece. I like montage pieces with voiceover and just telling a nice poem about lovers together.
So that was your drive to make that film?
Yeah.
That's what you wanted.
Yeah, I think the drive was to find something that was poetic, that was about love, that we could shoot, that was doable. As a director, you want to know, can I do this? Can I actually put this together? So many times filmmakers are overwhelmed. They make train wrecks because they're not sure if they can really actually accomplish the goal. So if you're doing a very simple film that's daylight dependent, you're going to be okay, because you know you can cut it, you know all you need is voiceover, and if it's in your wheelhouse, you're like, okay, I can get this message across, and I can make it poetic and beautiful. And Laura and I
miss Laura.
I miss Laura too. She's an incredible partner, and it's rare to have a guy and girl film directors that are co-directors on a film. And we've been together for 8 years. And
so do you guys have friction between each other, honestly, at this very moment, or no anymore?
Yes, honestly, no. I think that I don't think people should co-direct, to be honest. I don't think that it's a natural relationship. It's like a very intense marriage, creative marriage. If you do choose to co-direct, and if you choose your partners, you have to choose them wisely, and you have to make sure you have the same values. If you don't have the same values, you will not make films together that will be good, because you'll be constantly fighting about what the film should look like.
Right, but that's something that comes through the time that you guys start to adjust, or you were okay from the beginning with her. How was it always a world situation?
From the beginning. I mean, we liked Antonioni movies. We like Fellini. Laura loves Jeff Buckley and Cameron Crowe, and all the films that we love are very similar, and the genres that we hate also are the same. And it's okay to dislike a lot of genres. I'm not going to say which ones, but there are some genres that are not for us. They're not in our wheelhouse. And that's important, because you know what your circle of ability is. And really what you guys care about. You should only make movies that you care about. And those are the types of movies that we care about. Poetic films, montage films. We think about a lot of European directors that we like. Paolo Sorrentino. We love Sorrentino's movies.
Nice.
Lynn Ramsey.
Right.
I love Lynn Ramsey and Claire Denis,
Right.
So, yeah.
Stefano, this question is going to be tricky.
Yeah,
Are
sure.
you a perfectionist?
Perfectionist. I don't think of myself as a perfectionist, personally, because I think that you should know that things are going to be different than in your mind. But you shouldn't allow a film to go out until you're ready. I cut this movie 10 times, and I'm in the editing studio. I can be a little bit, I'm very, very, very meticulous about the work that you're trying to do, because film is so laborious. Directors have so much pressure on them to get them done. But you should take your time to make a movie before you release it, so that you're proud of the work. That's what I would say, yeah.
I'm not saying, I'm just asking.
It's like a job interview. I feel like, are you a perfectionist? That's the number one goal that they all say, that's their default, is being perfectionist. That's like the perfect answer that you give. But I would never say that I'm
Which is good, which is good. To be perfectionist is good, right? You need to do better through...
Yeah.
If you do something wrong, you definitely can't do that again, right?
Yes.
So you need to improve.
Yes. Absolutely. And you learn so many things from watching your movies over a period of time, and watching other filmmakers. You learn from hopefully you learn from other filmmakers' mistakes. You don't need to make the same mistakes yourself.
Right. So let's talk about the day I have to wrap.
All right. Okay.
This is what we hear.
Yeah.
I mean, you are having a blast with that film. You
Yes.
all over the place. You're all over the news. Do you know that it was gonna blow up this way? This film that you did, this documentary, or you were expecting all this exposure?
Yes. So I had done. This is the second documentary that Laura and I did. Our first one was picked up by NBC, and so I knew that there was a lot of exposure on that. Did I know about this film? I hoped it would blow up because I saw Jeremy's speech and I remember how powerful it was and how much of a following that he had in the Sunrise Movement. I think the thing that surprised me is how it can last for a very long time. These stories are still going on. These issues of climate change, gun violence in America, high student debt, they're topical issues right now, and people are emotionally connected to them. And so because of that, this film has an ability to live a long time. Issues about social media, young kids, Gen Z and social media. So I hoped that it was going to have a following like this.
So you know it somehow.
I had a feeling it had the potential, if it was done right, it had the potential to have quite a lot of success.
So because you made Jeremiah, right? It's the guy.
Jeremy, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why you decided to do that, because of him?
Yeah. So, when you meet your subjects, you are like dating. You don't know whether they're going to work out. You don't know whether the subjects are going to really matter and whether you guys are going to care together, whether you guys can go through a long period of time shooting, needing each other for different pickup shots. So I think how you pick your subjects and whether you guys get along as friends matters a lot. If you don't like the subjects and the people that you're with, you're not going to be very good. It's not going to be a very good film. So I knew when I drove with Laura to Washington to meet Jeremy, I knew we were going to be friends, and I knew we would be able to have a film because I liked him as a person.
So tell us a little bit about the process of the pre-production. How long was that process, and then you turned into production? How long was that production? And one more thing, pre-production is also go into production, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, right? You never get rid of pre-production in documentaries, right?
Right. So that's a great question. So I think that when we started off was in November of 2018. And then all the way up until then, around Christmas time, we go to see Jeremy, we go to Washington, D.C., we film some footage of a lot of rallies. Me and Laura attend a lot of rallies. We're climate activists. I was working for the UN and climate change for different conferences. So we were always involved in climate change issues. So pre-production from November till about March, we start shooting in March. And that shooting takes place over a period of time, basically March all the way into May. And so then we meet the activists. We went through a whole list. We filmed so many activists. But then you get down to really the 5 or the 6 that you're going to use. We end up using 6 of them.
And you watch all of them, all those activists?
Yeah, we watch all the footage. Yeah, and you want to meet them first. Meet them over Skype, meet them over Zoom. Yeah, you got to know if they're going to be good on film and whether they have something to say. If they don't have a message, then you're screwed. Yeah.
What about the post-production process? I guess you end up with a lot of footage, right?
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes.
How do you put your mind together to be able to get the best?
You need a lot of tea, a lot of coffee. You need a lot of coffee to get through it. That's what I need. A lot of coffee, a lot of tea, and you just need to spend a lot of time looking at your film critically and just not being happy if it's okay. Just making sure it's better than okay. I think we had 10 versions of the film. And it took us a year and a little over a year to get to the 10th version. Even my mom, the first version was like, sweetie, this movie's not very good. And I was like, yeah, I know, I got it. But it's so different from the first. But, even you have to really be honest with your film. And I was just telling Alex, our publicist, that I still cry when I watch that movie. It's very rare to get emotionally moved by your own films. But I still cry during the Helena Ramsey Parkland school shooting section of the film. So, yeah, you spend a lot of time in the editing room. You just have to have patience. Patience.
Right. Stefano, so what do you want the people to get from your film? What to walk away with? What was your objective?
I think that a lot of people have a very critical perspective of Generation Z, that they're always on their phones, they're always into social media. I think in America, they have a lot more issues going on than I did when I was a kid growing up. And I think the pressures of one aspect of social media, of comparing yourself to others, climate change, school shootings. I never had any school shootings when I was a kid. It was something so far out of my mind until I heard about Columbine. But I was already in school at that time, and it was already finished. So I think it's a recognition to Generation Z of all the things that they're doing. This current group of kids that are going to be with us longer than we'll be here. So, it's important to shed light on the issues that they're dealing with. And I like the dialogue. People come up to me, they talk to me about the movie, they talk to me about talking points, and I think it's a wonderful thing to be a part of in what's going on politically right now.
Stefano, what kind of advice you can give us, to me, to them? Because your film was picked up it was distributed, right?
Yes. Yes.
If you can tell us how you managed to get that distribution.
So, my advice is there's a few ways you can do it. I mean, sales agents is really the best way, because they'll know how to sell specific territories to how your film can do in certain markets. There are self-distributing platforms that you guys can go on. I don't know how it works in Spain, but in the States you can even submit specifically to Amazon, and you can submit your film. The other thing I would say is get yourself ready to do an EPK. Your EPKs, your electronic packages of 18 pages about the film, why you make the film, your director's statement, will make people take you more seriously. And you have to make mistakes. You're going to make a lot of mistakes as a filmmaker. You're going to fuck up a lot. There's going to be a lot of things that take a lot of time. But if you really love to make films, you have to just stick with it. Don't get sidetracked into, your girlfriend's doing this, or your friends are doing this. If you really love making films, you have to remember to think about that from the morning you wake up and at the time you go to bed. You'll have success. If you think about something all the time and you constantly shoot, you will learn from your own mistakes, and that will give you a longevity to keep making sure your films are finished and get better over time.
Stefano, what are you up to right now? What's next? What do you have in the can? Tell us.
Next, I'm going to have a drink right after, and then after this, I'm going to be working. I'm actually flying to Ireland to work on a film called A Dream Beyond the Dark. It's got Ewan McGregor's daughter, Clara McGregor, who was in Disney's Christopher Robin and other films that she was in that I can't think off the top of my head. I'm going to be editing this film basically about a blind painter, a true story about a French-Belgian blind painter. And, it's a film that I think will be coming out probably next year. It's a feature film. It's a live-action film. There's other problems that you worry about on the live-action film, but I'm excited to keep working on this project. Yeah. That's what's coming up for me.
Hey, round of applause for
Garland for doing all this, for putting this together, and I know you got a lot of stuff on your shoulder. So
You say it right? We're gonna make a lot of mistakes. We're champion in this festival too.
Yes.
But it's part of the.
Well, my thing is that, just like a film festival where you have so much on your plate and you take on a lot, I think I've learned as a director how much to delegate, how much to delegate to someone else in the editing room and, the crew and your gaffers, your cinematographers, the people that you work with. So trying to use your energy that you have in the right spots is something I've learned a lot because I've worn many hats over time, and just being able to be much more concentrated, I think, is great.
Because you work on TV, right? You do TV.
Yeah. So Laura and I shot 2 shows of a television show called Live from the Drive recently. We've shot stuff for Discovery as well. So shooting in TV, shooting short format, and shooting features are all very, very different. When you shoot TV, you're on a schedule. You're on a producer schedule. You need to get certain specific shots that they really want. They come up with a shot list for you. But I still love making movies. Like, I still feel, no matter what environment, whether it's a doc or a narrative, I still get excited in the morning. Call time, just sort of having coffee and talking to some. I like the fan. I also like being with a lot of people. I could never be a writer alone or a painter alone. I like to be in a group of people making movies.
But also you are a journalist, right? Because I see you in TV news all the time. Or it's because of the day I have to go out?
Well, because so there's a lot of political. There's blogs that I've written a lot, and I submit them to different news outlets to talk about, let's say, the infrastructure deal for Biden's infrastructure deal. So I'm often cited as I've been recently become a political commentator for BNC News, the Black News Channel, which is owned by BET in the US. So I'm usually on their programs once every 2 weeks, usually twice a month, talking about some of the political issues that are going on in America right now, usually about infrastructure and the Biden administration, and it all ties back into the documentary. So sometimes I try to plug the documentary in it, but sometimes they're just asking me questions about about politics and what's going to happen in the House elections and things like that.
Lovely. So guys, any questions for Stefano?
Well, I want to say that I really liked the second movie and it made me really emotional. And I wanted to ask you about what do you think that will happen with the crisis? Because I saw that in the United States, people are really eager to make a change and everything, but here, people are also aware about the thing that's going to happen with the climate thing, but they're not so eager to go to, to go to organizations and everything. So, what do you think that will happen if someday we will all get together to make a change, or that people from other countries that are not in the United States will stay more naughty to the change of everything? I don't know.
So it's a great question. First, I would answer it in 2 parts. The first is, what do you do locally in your own life, and then what should governments do? Sometimes when we talk about climate change, we feel we're powerless, because we say, well, how much impact do I have? So part of the choices that we make in terms of buying renewable things that are made recyclable, whether it's your cars, choosing to carpool, choosing to do composting, recycling, all the type of little small choices, how you use money to corporations and which corporations. There's a list of things that you could do, of organizations in the United States that are on the Sunrise Movement, for example, that will tell you lists of companies that are sustainable companies. So trying to live sustainably, I think, is the first thing on a local level. I think the next thing is you vote. You vote for people who will have changes that you believe will have an impact on a legislative, political level. The important thing about climate change is it's going to affect everybody. You know, we see it. I see it in the flooding. I saw it in the flooding. I've never had the New York City subway flood completely. And I was at home and we got flooded. And so this is part of the precipitation and the moisture in the water that is higher because of climate change. So we are all going to be affected, and our social issues are extremely important, but they're not so relevant if you don't have a planet to live on right now. So trying to get everybody on the same page, not causing blame, and figuring out practical solutions, I think, is the most important thing. But you vote with your dollar, you vote when you vote and participate in elections, and talking to people. Just this conversation is a starting point. You know, the fact that other people care, you care, I care. Okay, at least we care. We are thinking about the same thing together. Those are my advices, you know, for and thanks for the comments on the phone. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Hello, congratulations on your movie.
Thank you.
I would like to know where are they now, these guys in the movie. Do you have contact with them?
Yes.
To what goals they have accomplished? Did they join any political party, or did they make a group? Or?
Yes, that's a great question. So let's start off with Jeremy, right? The main person in the documentary. Jeremy's at Harvard right now, and he's still studying climate change, environmental sciences at Harvard University, and he is still involved in the Sunrise Movement. So him and Griffin are still involved in the Sunrise Movement that are pushing, writing to Congress, writing letters to legislatures, and working as complete activists. Sarah Salyani, who is from Pennsylvania, who has from Indian descent, Indian American, she is working for a congressperson in Pennsylvania. So she's working sort of in the political system, trying to see what the possibilities are of getting herself, working to get elected even on a local level and making changes. I know that Taylor Nicole Turner is in school also, and Violet is always on a local level. Her and her father were very, very involved in local levels in Brooklyn. And so I found out about Violet through a lot of her activism there. So I would say that all the individuals, even though I interviewed many, many more, the ones that stay in the documentary are all heavily still involved, either working with elected officials or studying in school for climate change, or working for a senator or a congressperson, or even elected locally themselves through a member of their family. So that's one of the reasons we picked them. We wanted people who were not just picking, who were in it for 5 minutes or for 10 minutes, that were in it for a long history of time. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Another question? Yeah. And about the gun control.
Yes.
Do you think the shooting events have increased in the past years?
Well, I think that.
And how powerful the NRA is in America?
I think the NRA is very powerful in America still. I think the NRA is still very, very powerful, and I think that the number one thing that the Democrats are trying to do is to at least get semi-automatic weapons off the availability list. And that's one of the things I was just speaking on an interview for NPR, talking about at least the small wins. So because the NRA has such an impact, particularly in the Republican Party, but all over the country in both parties, just trying to get semi-automatic weapons, military assault rifles out is a big win. You're never going to get guns completely out of America. It's I think, a big challenge to the Second Amendment, and I think it actually makes people more divided. But if you can work on the type of legislation that bans military assault weapons, you have a chance now because you have a Democratic president and a Democratic legislature. You just have to have the political will. But to answer your question, I think the amount of increases in schools, of school shootings, will continue to get bad if you keep those weapons in place. It'll never change the rapidness of them because those guns are not made for hunting. They were made for being on the battlefield, and you have to get those guns out of the public.
Not only in schools as well, discotheques and...
Yes.
I think there was an event in Las Vegas.
Yes. Correct. 2 years ago in Las Vegas, we see it with the LGBT community, happen in Miami. You know, when you start to see the same weapons that are being used, then you start to say, hey, this is one thing that we can remove that can make it, that can help to make the solution a little bit better. And that's you see a common thread from schools to other mass shootings. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions, guys? I got a question.
Yeah. Some great Q&A questions over here. You really put on the spot.
You know, Stefano, my question is, I think I told you this before.
Yes.
You talk so nice. Do you practice, do you learn it, or it's just you? Because you really know how to spread yourself. You know, I envy you in that part.
I appreciate I appreciate the compliment. I think that I'm a thinker. I like to really think about ideas, abstract ideas, and I like to communicate with people. I really like to see if the idea lands, and I like to engage in dialogue. I don't read networking books. I don't I don't really just practice that much. I work with publicists and people in PR to get your idea across, make sure it's concise, make sure it's coherent. But aside from that, I'm really curious as a person. I think that's the greatest thing, you know. If you're very curious about people, you will have good conversations. If you're just asking questions just like, hey Darwin, you know, how's the festival going? And then 2 seconds out, you're zoned out. You see it with filmmakers, you know, they don't really, some filmmakers will only care about their film. If they don't care about other movies and they're not caring about them, then they'll just blaze over and they don't really care. Your ability to be engaged with people matters on your curiosity of the subject. So if you're curious, you'll speak great. And you and I met in Cannes, so we had a great time. I mean, I find you're going to be, you know, you got this festival going, you got this going, you're going to be making some movies, so you don't need anything from me. We just need to be friends. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all you need. You have that already.
Hey.
So we're good.
An applause for this guy.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you for great questions.
Thank you, Stefano.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We need a glass of water together.
yeah, right? Exactly up here.